Welcome to this lecture of Object-Oriented Programming 1. Today we'll continue with Unit 5 and probably we'll finish it today itself. Okay, so let me show the disclaimer, then I'll start the session. Okay, so in this unit we had started with the objects and classes and the relationships and various types. We saw various classes. We saw string and string palindrome and string builder and string buffer and some examples of it like palindrome. Then we saw the concept of inheritance and we went to saw how super keyword can be used, how constructor chaining can be used with the super call, and how we do overriding and overloading of methods, right? That we saw. So, and then we saw the polymorphism last time and dynamic binding, right? So now let's start with ArrayList class. ArrayList class, although we might have seen one of the programs in our practical, let's see how this class is made up of. So ArrayList object can be used to store a list of objects. Okay, if you want to store a list of objects in the form of a list, but along with an index, you may use an ArrayList object. Okay, so you can create an array to store the objects, but once the array is created, its size is fixed. Okay, so that's the problem with the array list class. Once you create the size is fixed. Now the Java list, so see, that's the problem with an array, not an array list. Okay, that's the problem with an array. Like for example, if you make and suppose you make it like this, and is equal to new int 10. So now see what happens. This p basically array p can point to p of 0 to up to p of what? P of 9, right? What if you want more? Want to add some more objects to it? Well, you cannot do so. Even you cannot add more primitive values. Forget about objects, right? So then we have in hand what? Java provides ArrayList class which can be used to store an unlimited number of objects. Okay, store an unlimited number of objects. You can add or remove objects as you want. Okay, you see this is the ArrayList class where the ArrayList constructor is there which creates an empty list. Then we have add method which can help you add, or basically it appends a new element, or we can say new object at the end of the list. This O stands for object. O is a type of class E. It's like something like that. O stands for object, E stands for class name. Okay. This is UML notation. This is the UML notation of class. This is a class diagram notation of ArrayList class. See, these are all publicly available methods and even constructor. This is the constructor. Okay. These are all rest of those are methods. Other methods are also there. Now see, there are lots of methods like to add some object, add an object directly or add an object at an index. Okay, clear the whole list, check whether the list contains an object or not, right? Get the index of a particular object, or you can get the object from a particular index, and then get the index of a particular object. Check whether the array list is empty or not. Check the last index of a particular object. Remove a particular object. Okay. So this removes the first element from this list. Okay, and it also returns true if the element is removed. So see, those returning boolean checks does some operation and also checks it. For example, here it checks whether the object contains the array list contains a particular object or not. Okay, It checks whether the array list itself is empty or not. Size gives you the size in integer, number of elements, number of objects at a particular time in array list. Remove with an index will help you remove a particular object from a particular index. And set, you can set the element at a specified index. Okay. There is an add method also, there is set method also, so there are lots of things available. Okay. Now see, array list is basically what it is known as a generic class with generic type key. Basically, if you say, since it's a generic class, you can specify a type for which you want to make an array list. So in this is how you make array list, and then angle brackets, and then you specify the type. So it means that this will hold an array list of type string objects. Okay. Array list of type string object. So it is equal to new array list string. Either you do it like this or you do it like this. No issue in that. Both are valid syntax. Okay. So check this out. What we are doing over here, we are saying in this program, array list of string city list is equal to new array list. So you have just created an empty array list right now. Okay. So the city list variable points to an array list. Now it doesn't know that what is basically the size and what are the contents of the array list, because there is nothing inside it right now. So as you know, as you say city list dot add London, this London gets added as a part of the array list. Now there may be other parts also available. Now you can add one by one more, Denver, Paris. As soon as you go on adding, the size goes increasing. You see, as you go on adding, the size goes increasing, right? It's like that. So this is how your array list gets populated. This is how your array list gets populated. How? By adding, one by one adding each object. Okay. So see here it is shown. But the now city list contains London. After this addition, then it contains Denver, then it contains Paris, then it contains Miami. So you can see in this way the size is increasing. In this way the size is increasing for the array list, right? Now once you have added the array list, you added the various string objects into this array list, like it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 objects. Now what you can do with that, you can check whether what is the size. So this will return what? Obviously this will return value 6, because these are 6 objects, 6 string objects we have added. Now we check whether a string called Miami is there inside the array list or not. So what do? We say println is Miami in the list, that's the string that we have printed, and then we attach the result. City list that contains Miami. So this will return what? This will, if Miami is there, then it will return true. Okay, it will return true. Right. So is there Miami there? Let's see. Yes, Miami is there, added as a 4th string. Okay, there are other strings, other city names also. So check this out. Miami is added, so this will return true. Then we check what is the location of the Denver in the list. Okay, is the location of the Denver. So if we see the location, then the location is this only. Denver is located at 2nd location only. But since it's an array list, the index should start with 0. Okay. You got the point. So for this, This here it returns for Miami, it returns true. For Denver, it returns what? For Denver, it returns location 1. Since the location is 2, but the index starts with 0, so it is 0 and 1. Denver is at location 1. Okay. London is at 0, Denver is at 1. Now see, we check whether the string, this particular array list is empty or not. We say city list dot is empty. So this will also return what? This will also return, this will return basically false. The list is not empty, list is populated. List is populated with strings. Okay. Then if you want to add a new location, see what happens. If you see the previous this one, you'll see the previous list is like this: London, Denver, Paris, Miami, London, Denver, Paris, and Miami. Okay, and Seoul and Tokyo. So see, if you add something now, if you add a city called Zan at location 2, okay, so before it was London, Denver, Paris, Miami, Seoul, and Tokyo. But now it has added this Zan at location 2. You can see London is 0, Denver is 1, the location is 2. So the Paris and all got what? They got shifted. The other cities got, the other objects got shifted, you see. So it automatically changes the index for all, you know. So you don't need to worry about changing the index. That's the best part of array list. You know, you are inserting what? Actually the original list was this without this. Okay, original list was this: London, Denver, Paris, Miami, Seoul, and Tokyo. What did you do with this particular statement? You added Zan in this location. So Paris and all got shifted right by one location. That's it. Now, if you remove a particular object from a particular list, what happens? Check this out. Now we are removing what? Miami. So Miami is currently at location 0, 1. It's like, see, this is location 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So from location 4, you are removing Miami. So what happens? Seoul, Tokyo, and all, which were at location 5 and 6, they would shift left. As simple as that. You can see that the new list is like this: London, Denver, Zan, Paris, Seoul, and Tokyo. This Miami was here, but now it has been removed. See that? Similarly, you can see it's not like that you just need to say the object, the string name in order to remove. You can even say remove from a particular index. Remove one. What is one right now in this particular list? Location 1 is Denver. Location is 0, 0 is London. Denver is location 1. So location 1 gets removed. So Denver gets removed. So this list, in this list, the Denver gets removed. So this is the new list: London, Zan, Paris, Seoul, Tokyo. You get the see that? And then if you say city list got two string, it just prints the list like this. It just prints the list like this. As simple as that. Okay. City list dot two string just prints the list of the strings. Okay. Now you say int I is equal to cities dot size minus 1. Now see what we are doing is we are iterating from the end. Okay, we are displaying the content in the reverse order. So I say int I equal to citylist dot size. So what is the size right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this gives me 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. So I starts with I starts with what? It starts with 4 and it goes up to I is greater than or equal to 0. So it goes up to 0. So 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And we start declaring using I from next iteration. And what do? We say citylist dot get I and attach a empty string and just print it out. Okay. So this does what? This prints the list into reverse order. Okay. Now see, you can even have, an object of different types. Like, you can have an array list of different types also. Like, say for example, you can create a list to store two circle objects like this. Circle from simple geometric object. That's a class, right? So you say array list of list is equal to new array list, and now you add two new circle from simple geometric objects with some radius, two or three. You see that? And now you see the area of the circle. Once you want to get the area of the circle from that list, what do you do? See, if you want to get the object, if you want to access the object, what do you say? You say list dot get zero. So this will get you the object, and then on that you call that method to get area. As simple as that, right? So this is, see, this thing is basically possible if you have specified that you would be having an array list of this particular class. If it would have been a list variable, list of list is equal to new array list, and then here you specify circle from geometric object, right? And in this case, it would not have been possible directly. You could not say list dot get zero and then call directly get area on that. First, you will have to cast it into circle from simple geometry object. This list had to be cast into this class, and then on that you would have called this. Okay. This is some more examples. Array list of string list is equal to new array list. List dot get index. List dot get, you can get some particular string from a particular index. Then you can set a particular index saying index dot set index London. If the index is 0, it will set at 0. If the index is 1, it will set at 1. Then it's a list dot size, gives you the size of the list. Add London, add index London. These are all different. So we just saw this, right? We just saw this. This is how this is how you can work with the lists. Okay. Now we have also seen, since, okay, that was array list class. We don't have much thing on this. Now that's it. So we try to practice out this program. This is a very simple and easy program. Try to practice it out. Okay. Now let me go to this thing. Here what does it say? See, we have seen various things like private and public members, right? But now if we see protected data and methods, these are very special. Protected member of a class can be accessed from a subclass. That's the main thing. Protected does not mean totally private, right? See, we have used private and public keywords to specify that the data fields and methods can be accessed either from the inside or outside the class only, right? If you say private members, those can be accessed only from the inside the class, and if you say public members, then those can be accessed only from inside the class also and from any other classes outside the class also, right? But now, if you want to put some restriction on this part, that not any other class, but a subclass only, right? So if it is desirable to allow subclasses to access the data fields or methods defined in the superclass, but not to allow non-subclasses to access these data fields and methods, right? Then you can use protected keyword. It's like something like this. See, you have a superclass, right? Now you have subclasses. You are inheriting these subclasses inherit from this superclass. The subclasses inherit from this superclass. Okay. Now see, if you have some properties, that you might have some properties that you may want to be accessed by only the subclasses. Okay. Then you might make them as what? You might make them as the protected. Yeah. Then you might make them as protected. Right. So what would happen is if some other class comes, if some other class comes and tries to access this superclass, fine, it will access, it will be able to access the class, but it will not be able to access this values. It will not be able to access this values. Let's suppose that this is an outer class only, and some other class for some other location only. It will not be able to access this protected values unless and until what? It will not be able to access it unless and until this class becomes a subclass of this superclass. Although it may be in a different package, okay. Although this may be a different package, that doesn't matter. So see, protected variables are accessible to superclasses in the same package and also to the direct superclasses in the different package. These are what? This is the same package. And this is a different package. The different package. Even this class can access now the properties that it derives from the superclass. Okay, got the point? Basically, if you want to allow non-subclasses to access the data field and methods, then you need to use. So you don't need to allow. You want not to allow the non-subclasses to access data fields and methods, then you make protected. Okay. Now see, modifiers private, protected, and public are known as visibility, accessibility modifiers. Visibility, or these are called as what? Visibility or accessibility modifiers. And they will specify how classes and class members are accessed, how those can be accessed. That's what it specifies. And remember, if you are out of these three, if you are using for a class, either you use no modifier or you use public. Class can allow only these two. Class does not allow private and protected. These two are not applicable on classes. Remember this thing. Okay. Private and protected modifiers are not applicable on classes. So you cannot say something like this. Protected class my class. No, that's not possible. This thing is not possible. It's not allowed. Okay. You can use public or don't use anything. That is default. That is default access. Okay. So basically there are four types right now. One is private, another is default, protected, and public. So see, this increases the scope. Private means that the members are only accessible within the class, only within the class. Members are accessible only within the class. That's private. It cannot be accessed from outside the class. Default, if you go for default, now it has got a slighter more relaxed version than private. What does it say? That the members can be accessible only within the package, not only within the class but only within the package. It cannot be accessed from outside the package. So if you define like this, class A, and now you have some int I, right? So now if there is a class B, that wants to use this, object of A, in this, suppose in main method, suppose we have some code like this, uh, A dot I, okay, equal to 10. So if this B class wants to make use of this I instance variable of class A, then it needs to be in the same package. Both the classes needs to be in the same folder. As simple as that, right? It needs to be in the same folder. So in that case, you don't need to specify any class level access, any access level. So you don't specify anything, by default it's taken as default. So the scope is increased. First the scope was limited to within the class, then the scope got somewhat broader and got limited up to within the package. Okay. Now if you might want that, you want it to be accessed, you want the members of a class to be accessed within the package. Okay, suppose that access level of protect is so see the and outside the package also, but through child class only. You want what? You may want that it's you may want to restrict it up to package, but want a slighter relaxation in it. What if the child class is in a different package? Then you might want it to be inherited to only through child class, which may be outside the current package, right? So that is available, that thing is possible. So it's like this. See, you have a class number 1, and now class is inherited by a subclass. Now you also have another subclass and this subclass is inheriting the superclass, but this subclass is basically from another package. Okay, this is package 1, and let's suppose that this is package 2, or maybe you can say these are two different folders, as simple as that. These are folder package 1, folder 1, this is folder 2. Okay, so here you can allow allow certain properties to be accessed by the subclass if these properties are what? If these properties are having access modifier as or visibility modifier as protected. Okay. It is a slighter, more relaxed version of what? First, see, there was a very restricting version called private, then slight relaxed version was default, somewhat more relaxed version was protected, and fully relaxed version is public. You don't have any restriction on it. So wherever you use this modifier, right, that access level will be like, it will be from within the class, outside the class, within the package, and even outside the package. All the scopes are available inside it. The members that you declare as public, right, the members that you declare as public, right, those members can be accessed from within the class, outside the class, within the package, okay, and outside the package. All these 4 scenarios are supported. Okay. So see, this is an example. Here we have a package. This is package P1. This much it is. This, and this, and this, and this. So this much is package P1. Package P1 has three classes: C1, C2, and C3. The C1 class has got X variable, which is declared as public. This has scope as public. Then Y, which has scope as protected, right? Then Z, which does not have a scope, so it is default. And then U, which is private. So tell me now, if this C1 is inherited by this C3, right? By saying C3 extends C1. So now you can see that this C3 can do what? C3 can access X because that is public. C3 can access Y because it is protected. So the child class can also access protected variables, right? That is possible. It can also access Z because C1 and C3 are in same package P1. So it can access X, which is having public scope, Y, which is having protected scope, and Z, which is having default scope. You see, basically the public, protected, and default scope variables of a class can be accessed by its subclass in the same package. Now see, if you try to access the C1 through C2, so which variables will be accessible to it? See, it can access X. X can be accessed because it is public. Y can be accessed because it is protected. Protected by default means it allows to be accessed within the same scope. I mean within the same package. So here see, C1 and C2 are in same package P1. So it can access a protected member of C1. C2 can access the protected member of C1, even though it is not a subclass. C2 is not a subclass of C1. Still, it can access the protected member. And it can also access this. What? It can also access this default variable, default access variable. But none of these like C2 and C3, none of these can access the private variable U, because that is accessible only in C1. Okay. And see, this M method has got protector scope. So C3 can access this N, that is possible, and C2 can also access N, that is possible. Both can invoke M method. Okay. Now why it is said over here as access and here as creating an object and then accessing it? Because see, this is a subclass. So by default it will inherit X, Y, Z also, and this M. It will not inherit this U. It can say it can directly access. You don't need to create an object of C1. You just need to directly access it inside your methods of these properties of C1. But this C2 is not a subclass of C1. So it needs an object of C1 to access its properties. See that? Now if you see the slightly restricted version of protected, check this out, see what happens. See the difference between protected and default. See, this C4 is the child class of C1. So C4 is inheriting C1. C4 is doing what? It is inheriting C1. Okay, but C4 is in different package. You can see that C4 is in different package. So which classes can be accessed, or sorry, which members can be accessed of C1 here? X can be accessed because it is having public scope. Y also can be accessed because it is having protector scope. Protected scope means giving access to child class in same package or in different package. Okay, so you can see here it can access X and Y. X is public, Y is protected. But it cannot access Z because Z has default scope, and default scope means only up to the package. No, so it cannot access Z. You see, it cannot access Z, and it cannot even access U because that was private. It can invoke M because M is protected. M is protected, so it can invoke M. So you see how protected works. Now if you see this C5, it tries to make the object of C1, which is a public class. It can make the object. It can access only X. Only X. None of these three are available to it. Not protected, not even protected, not default, and not private. Only X is accessible. You see, why cannot it access this protected Y? Why is it so that this C5 cannot access the Y? Cannot access Y because Y is default. Sorry, Y is protected, and it is allowed in out of the current class. So out of the same class, it is only allowed to be accessed by a child class, and C5 is not a child class of C1, so it cannot access Y. If it would have been, this C5 would have been, if let's suppose that this C5 would have been, just suppose that this C5 is available inside this package P1, then it can access this Y and this Z also. But it cannot access U because it is private. And right now it cannot access Y because it is allowed to only the child classes in another package, and in the same package any class, and also to child class. Okay. So you see the scope is increasing a lot. Okay. Scope is very, very less in private. Then the slightly scope, extends. See, private means inside this class only. Default means inside this package, inside this whole package, right? Then protected means inside the package. Along with that, outside the package, but only subclasses. Okay. Along with this outside the package, along with this, the subclass. Okay. So this is the access mod. These are the access modifiers. And now, what if you want to make something as constant? Suppose if you use final. So final has different meanings or different things. Like if you use final as on variable, then it becomes the constant variable. You say final double pi equal to 3.14. Now you cannot say something like this. You cannot say pi plus plus. No, that is not possible. This is not possible because pi is a final variable. It cannot change its value. It has become a constant. And there is final method. Final method is used to prevent method overloading. Okay, so if you have a class, suppose A, right, and it has got a method called let's say A1. Okay, and now you say you are making a version of A1, let's say A2, right? Now you are doing what? You are inheriting that A1 class, right? So if you make this method as final, this A1 method as final, then this A2 method cannot override. It cannot say that there is again another method called A1 inside it. Right. No, this thing will not be allowed. If this A1 is what? If it is a final method. Got it? So the subclass cannot override the superclass final method. As simple as that. You want that the subclass should not override my method, then you simply use what? You simply use the final method. Okay. And then you have final class, which can inherit, which can prevent inheritance. So see, each final method prevents something. A final making of variable final prevents updating that variable. Making a method final, prevents overriding that method. Making a class final prevents extending that class. So if you say that you have a class like this A, which is basically final, okay, and now if you want to inherit that class, let's say class B, you cannot do so. Right? You cannot do so. An example of this is what? Let's say the string class itself. You want to make your own string class and you inherit string class. Well, that is not allowed. You cannot inherit string class. Similarly, there is a math class. You say, I will implement my own mathematics standards and my own mathematics methods using this math class by inheriting math class and adding my own methods. No, that is not allowed. Because it's a part of the language. String and math classes are part of the language definition, and updating it would change the meaning of the language. So that's why these classes are made as final. You will not be able to inherit from these classes. You can try it out. Okay. You can try it out. So whenever you want to remember, whenever you want to prevent a class from being inherited, you declare it as final class. Okay. So check this out. This is class A, and it has got a method which is final. When we say here class B extends A, and now see we are trying to implement the same kind of method in this class B. We are trying to implement same kind of method with the same name and same return type and same parameters. So that is exactly the same signature. In fact, you are trying to override the parent class method, but that is not allowed. That will give you an error. Why? Because this method is declared as final. You cannot override a method. So this is invalid. This code is invalid in class B. Okay. Similarly, check this out. You have a class called A, which is final. Now, if you try to extend it, you try to extend the class A. So final keyword with class does what? It prevents inheritance. So this is an example of inheritance. So this is not allowed. Extending from A is not at all allowed. Okay. Got the point? So that's it. We have finished chapter 5. Okay. Which all topics did we see in this? Yes, in this unit 5, we saw various topics. It was a big unit. Okay. So we saw basically, we started with abstraction and encapsulation, right? Then how to think about objects. Then what are the different class relationships like association, right? Like association. Then aggregation and composition. Then we also further saw the one more relationship that was called inheritance, right? And we saw primitive data types and wrapper classes for those primitive data types, right? How those primitive data types are helpful in processing the primitive data type values in processing or maybe storing even primitive data type values as objects. Okay. So wrapper objects can be used to wrap the primitive data types, right? So the primitive data type values behave as object values. And how we can do automatic conversion between primitive types and wrapper class types. That is how we can do auto boxing and auto unboxing. That also we saw. Then we saw the string class, okay, where string class has got various methods like replacing, then splitting, okay, formatting and all. Then we saw string builder and string buffer classes, which are almost similar. Then we also saw inheritance, which is nothing but one of the relationship among classes. It's a kind of easier relationship, right? Then we saw the use of super keyword when basically we are inheriting a class, we can use super keyword. Then we saw constructor chaining, and then the super keyword in case of constructors and in case of calling the methods. Then we saw how methods can override the parent class methods, child class methods can override parent class methods, and we saw what's the difference between overloading and overriding. Okay, and we also saw that if access modifier is final, if the access modifier is used as final in this parent class, then that method cannot be overridden by the child class. And similarly, if it's a static method, then child cannot override the parent class methods but simply hide it when basically using this. These two access modifiers you are used, you have to be, you have to work with caution in case of overriding. And we saw the difference between overriding and overloading, right? Then we saw polymorphism. We also saw something called as object polymorphism and what? And the method polymorphism also. So method overloading is also called as method polymorphism. Remember that thing. Okay. Method polymorphism is also called as method overloading, or vice versa is true. Okay. Then we saw dynamic binding, how a superclass reference can point to a subclass object and dynamically invoke the subclass method whenever it is called, even though the reference type is of superclass. Then we saw how we can cast objects and how we can use instance of operator, to make sure that we are casting correctly. And then today we saw ArrayList class. We saw some of its methods like add, contains index of empty, remove, right, get, size. These are some of the methods. And then we saw how to access the members, data members, right, data, how to access the methods and data using various access specifiers or visibility modifiers called as private, then default, there is nothing, there is no keyword for default, then protected and public, right? And then we saw the use of final keyword, that a final keyword can be used on variable, method and class. Okay, so that's it for this unit. If at all any doubt in this whole unit, please do let me know. Okay. Okay, Harshit is asking, can we have two final classes in the same package? There is no issue if you if you make a class final, if you are making class 1 final, let me show you. Okay, check this out. See, if I am making one class as private, okay, sorry, this is final. Let's call it as class 1. Let's say this class 1 is final and class 2 is also final. And let's suppose that both of these are in same package. So what is the issue if one class is final and another is final, and or maybe another is not? Let's say now there is a class 3 class called class 3, okay, and which is not final. So what is the issue in that? There is no issue now. All these classes are independent, so there is no issue in making as much as classes as final. There is no issue in that. But once you make the class as final, you will not be able to extend it. Remember that part. Okay. You will not be able to inherit it. Okay. Any other doubt related to this unit? Please do ask me. Yes. I'll stop the recording, and if you have any other doubts or any other issues, you can ask.